you guys have any questions or you have any thoughts or comments, what did you think of this game?
One of my complaints was that it didn't seem like there was enough of a story set up at first. I was doing all of this. The gameplay was fun. I like the survival gameplay. But you're going on this journey, and you don't really feel like why you're going on it. If anything, you think about like a flood. Why are you going downriver?
Yeah. It's funny to me because in thinking about this and thinking about my previous talk on Demon Souls, I was like, oh, I am clearly starting to see the elements of games that really jump out at me, which is like challenge and like being in an intense you live or die situation, and also like very open-ended casual storytelling. I think the tough part of Flame in the Flood is because of the procedural generation. There is stuff I did not see with one playthrough. It's not just, oh, I didn't bother to read the item description. I never saw the item. Like, my first playthrough, I think I only saw one quilt. And then in subsequent playthroughs, I saw way more. But I was also a little bit better at the game, so I was stopping more places. I was exploring more places. I wasn't rushing down the river in desperation. I was like, no, I want to see everything. The only moments that you absolutely will hit are the radio tower, Angel Yards, and the Kingdom. And those are very loaded areas. But all that subtle in-between stuff, there's no knowing if you'll even see it. Yeah.
So not knowing how it ends, and not having seen the Kickstarter video, like knowing you're getting guided through the afterworld, the Christian stuff totally makes sense. But it felt like this weird, broken, skeptical Christianity, like just playing it initially. Because there are churches everywhere, but they're busted. And
right.
The first unique NPCs I ran into were these feral children.
Yes.
Who they talk about how are the adults left, and then our parents left, and then the church mouths left, which is such a good word. So it's like it makes sense that hope kind of like rises really, really slowly in the distance. But initially, in that part where you're super disempowered and have no idea what you're doing, and I like stubbornly refuse to wiki anything or whatever, it's a very different tone. It doesn't feel like salvation is necessarily in the cards.
Yeah, no, and that's funny because you talk about the feral children. I saw them on my first playthrough this summer, and I didn't see them on this playthrough that I recorded. And I was like, dang, like I know the feral children are out there. But I was like, I wish I had recorded what they said. And like, there's no good wiki on this game where people record all this stuff. I have to find the feral children again. I have to find the other NPCs. Like the old witch who you saw on the Kickstarter. I think I find her on most playthroughs. Cocteau I only found once. He basically tells you what's going on. Yeah, the only ones that you definitely will meet are Flim Flam and the Mountain Man. Right? Because they're at the set locations. But the other ones who kind of fill in a lot and tell you what's going on, you just might not find them. So yeah, like, man, there is like an even deeper story. But you know what I mean? Like, it's in bits and pieces, and it's not like Dark Souls where everybody has recorded everything about that game.
From what I know, they added that story in relatively late in development when it was in early access on Steam, like after the Kickstarter and everything. That story mode didn't come in, and most people were playing it in early access in that endless mode and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting thing, and kind of one of the things is, I know that the UI is a little bit different on PC, like the crafting is a little bit different, and you also have a mouse, so it works a little bit different. It's almost lucky that it came out on consoles, because they didn't meet the stretch goals to port it. Like, I think the Microsoft exclusivity was kind of also Microsoft being like, here's some money, port it. It's the same with like Cuphead, but to a much greater degree there, where they outright kind of bought that game. I could see it as a very PC game. I could see it as only existing as a survival game. That is a game market that exists very much on PCs. But as you saw from my like history of survival stuff, the survival games on consoles, way more story focused. Way less mechanic focused. Survival Kids has a story. Snake Eater has a story. Disaster Report and its sequels have a story. In Metal Gear Survive, there's a story mode. It might be that around the time they kind of got that extra bump and that extra money to start porting it to consoles, it probably became much more feasible to add the story elements.
If you listen to Gwen, she has a podcast where she actually goes into like sparing detail about like what their process was. Like one of the other things that she mentioned was they were the game was on, like when Microsoft has like the panels with these are all the indie games that we're funding and stuff like that. Like Flame in the Flood was on there, and they got a lot of push from that, and then we're later able to like get the physical releases out and get it on PS4 and stuff.
Yeah, I think the Game Informer article, which was
Yeah.
a lot of what I pulled from, kind of goes hand in hand with that teaming up with Microsoft, because then it was like the magazine you get at GameStop is paying attention to this and giving it like a 6 to 8 page feature. It definitely had something to do with that Microsoft team up. Yeah, I haven't listened to that podcast. You know, I really wanted to do an indie game this time, and I was like, I deeply love this game. And you can tell I deeply feel a lot of things about this game, but it's not Celeste. It's not Hyper Light Drifter, which is another one that I feel a lot about. It kind of has gone under the radar, which I don't know why. I kind of think because it doesn't have that cute pixel aesthetic that a lot of those other games have, it kind of bounces off people, or they get kind of intimidated by, like, when you describe what this game is, you're like, that sounds very challenging and frustrating and, like, punishing. And the survival elements and the danger are very important to the game, but I don't think it's as hard as a game as it seems. But it is, like, if you don't know what to do, you're scrambling. And because there aren't wikis, because there isn't a lot of information about what to do, I think a lot of people might bounce off it even if they try it.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely seemed manageable to me. The thing that was most frustrating about it were just some of the things where it was a little bit unfair about the... Like, you know, the boars could detect you from way far away and run right at you, and the only way you can kill them is with that, you know, spike trap,
yeah.
But it takes too long to build it.
Once it's seen you.
Yeah.
I will admit that, like, even now I still cheese this game, which is, like, that the dock is a safe spot.
Yeah.
So I will literally have the wolves run all the way to the edge of the area where I run off screen off the dock, step back in, and they're all waiting for me,
Yeah.
and then I'll build a spike trap just in range where it'll catch them and kill them that way.
I mean, they were okay because you could wave your stick at them.
You know, I didn't figure that out until after.
Okay.
It is that tough thing of, like, they built in so many ways to survive, but I didn't know you could scare the wolves. I thought that was only for the birds. And then I was like, why did the game not tell me this major survival technique? Because I think they want you to have that moment where you discover it.
So at the very end, the way that you sort of phrased it, there's a spot for your backpack, but the way I saw that was these could have been all your other, like, run-throughs, or what I've seen as a sort of, like, allegory for purgatory. There's, like, more dogs with little, like, packs, and then this is maybe you. Maybe this is, like, at the very end where you're actually dying, and you're up there with, like, all the other versions of yourself.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that's really funny to me is, like, I haven't fully decoded what I think the dogs in the backpack are about.
Uh-huh.
There's something there, and that's why I put it. It's in the video. You read the note about the other dogs who have gone out, and I'm like, I want to know that story. Who are those other dogs? Who are they finding? Who are they bringing back here? Because there's nobody else at the kingdom when you get there. Like, there's other NPCs out in the world, and I always think of them as, like, people who didn't make it to heaven. One of the other things I've thought about is, like, you know, I gave my interpretation of the school bus, but I was like, oh, did she die in a school bus accident? Is that why there's wrecked school buses everywhere? Was there no flood at all? Is the flood just a representation of, you know, the journey through purgatory? I have no idea. You know, and that's, again, I'm like, ooh, that's good. That's meaty, that it's like, I can put a lot of different reads on this game. Well, if that's it, thank you all for coming.
Awesome.